Hey folks, welcome back to the podcast, Evil Dungeon Master Universe Podcast. I am your host, Evil Dungeon Master Vince, and it is Monday, and we're back with another podcast for you. Oh boy. How you doing out there, folks? Let me know in the comments. Have a nice day. No, I'm kidding. So this week, Ask the DM at theevildm.com is my email address, and theevildm.com is where you can go sign up for my newsletter, or for my websites. You can get all the stuff delivered right to your mailbox. You don't have to go anywhere. It comes right to you. You click the button and enjoy. Sounds like a futuristic movie, right? Anyway, today we're going to continue along with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, since that's what people want, and I will deliver what people want. I'm carrying on the Roll for Initiative tradition here, and by talking about AD&D. Here's a podcast about AD&D, so I'm going to bring it to you. So we're flipping to page 166, and we're going to go old school with our thing we're going to talk about today. What's something that you can use to chop off limbs? Well, we're going to talk about the Sword of Sharpness today, and one that can chop off heads, the Vorpal Sword, the Vorpal Weapon, the Vorpal Weapon Sword. These two are classic swords that can be given out in a campaign that could possibly break everything for you if you give them out at too low a level. It can also break it at higher levels too, because you might have your big bad drop with a certain percentage. I think it's like 15% at one point. So the Sword of Sharpness is a weapon. Again, page 166 in the Afridi Dungeon Master Guide. Sword of Sharpness is a weapon that is treated as a +3 weapon to hit, or better, for purposes of who or what can be hit by it. That does not mean it is a +3 weapon. It only means that, say you have a demon or something or whatever, or a creature that can only be hit by +3 weapons or better, this weapon will count. But it only gets a +1 bonus of +1 to hit. That's it. And on damage. Its power is great. However, for on a very high 2-hit roll, I like how they put 2-hit in quotes, like it's not really a thing. As shown below, it will sever an extremity, an arm, a leg, a neck, a tail, a tentacle, whatever. Okay, now here in the description, it says a neck, right? So to me, a neck translates to a head. You're chopping off somebody's head, because you can't chop off somebody's neck without chopping off their head. But according to Gary Gygax, in an old interview that I remember listening to, and I did confirm this with Frank Menser at Gen Con in 2010, that the Vorpal sword was only the one reserved for chopping off heads. The Sword of Sharpness was never meant to cut off heads. It was only meant for limbs. Now, I've always did it as a way to chop off heads. Until I heard it from Gary in an old interview that I was reading, and Frank Menser agreeing with it, I changed it. I only laid the Vorpal sword doing it, because that's the way Gary wanted it. But then again, Gary was famous for changing the way he did things as he got older. So, I don't know. Gary is the final arbitrator when it comes to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. If he's not alive, I mean, Frank Menser is alive and agreed to it. I guess I go with that. Again, it's your campaign. You can do whatever you want. So, anyway, back to what it says. Opponent. Okay, so you get a +1 to hit and damage. So, it says that an opponent is normal or armored, a modified score to the Sever of a 19 to 21 will cut off one of those body parts. And it has a little asterisk saying considers only the sword to be a bonus of +1. So a 19 to 21, so a natural 18, natural 19, and natural 20 will sever a body part. Larger than man size would be a 20 and 21. So you need a 19 or a 20. Solid metal or stone-like creatures, you need a natural 20, which gives you a 21. The Sword of Sharpness will respond to its wielder's desire with respect to a light it sheds. None. A 5-foot circle of illumination, a 15-foot light, or 30 glow radius light spell. So it could be nothing, a little bit, light, or full-blown radius of light. I like that, and I don't like that. I mean, it's hard to sneak up on someone with the light there like that. But yeah, if you have it out and you're using it, that's your bad. Now, how do you determine what body part is rolled off? You can't be like, well, I automatically go for the head, or I automatically go for, you have to do it randomly because that's how it works. I roll a d4. Arm, arm, leg, leg. Roll the d4, that's what gets chopped off. I don't do the neck or the head again because it didn't work out. You would have to, I mean, obviously, you'd have to roll a d5. You don't have a d5. So you have to roll a d6 and then re-roll a 6. Or what you could do is roll a d6, 5 being the head and 6 being the waist. Like you just chop the body completely in half. That's really up to you how you want to handle it. Again, you're the DM, so I'm just giving you some ideas how to and what to roll when taking care of this. So that's a Sword of Sharpness. It's pretty powerful. I wouldn't give it out at low levels, definitely at all. I would reserve that for higher levels because you don't want your big bad dropping. And there's a very good chance of him dropping with this sword in the hands of a fighter that is specialized. So next up, we have the sword, the Vorpal Weapon, which is right below it. Is similar but superior to a Sword of Sharpness. Our Vorpal Weapon is a +3 to hit and bonus for damage. When a score on the die is below, it will sever the neck head of an opponent. This directly tells us the head. The other one just says neck. So, again, I think Gary was right here in this situation because he says neck head. Because the only way to sever a head is by the neck, so I don't know why it's written that way. But if an opponent is normal armored, the modified score would be 20 to 23, so you'd have to roll a natural 19. I'm sorry, a natural 17 to 20 to get that person. So a 17 or higher, you're taking off the head of the big bad in one blow. Larger than man size, 21, 23. Modified, obviously, stone, solid metal, or stone, 2023. So there's that there for you. I mean, it's a really powerful weapon, and it's something you can't just joke around with and give it out. I would definitely give it out after a long campaign of mid to high level characters because you don't want this destroying everything. It should be something that they find and then maybe they use on the big bad finally and get that, yeah. And then they have that going forward, but, what are you going to do, right? Now, there is a little note here, and it's something to consider in your campaign. The DM will note that there are many creatures that cannot suffer decapitation due to a lack or mutability form, excuse me. There are also certain creatures that may have heads but would not necessarily be killed by decapitation. These are among the ones of a doppelganger, which is interesting, elementals, and golems. So those three, and I've seen people add in like dragons because they're just too big and too powerful. And they say that dragons can't be decapitated like that. I guess it really depends on you as the DM what you want to do. It's your world and your game, so you can do exactly whatever you want for this situation. And in this situation, you're basically saying that if doppelgangers can't be decapitated, then neither can dragons. Seems a little weird, but I've seen some DMs actually do that. So there's that again. And they have a nice picture of a worm. It's like the players are attacking a worm, which I'm assuming is one of the things that can't be decapitated because it doesn't really have a head, so to speak. And a worm, if you cut off the head, it still kind of lives. And thinking about this now that I've read these again, and these are weapons that I've used many times as a dungeon master, giving out to, 6th, 7th, whatever level characters. I don't think I've ever got one as a player playing in a campaign. And I've played in a couple AD&D campaigns that were long term. And I've played fighters before and obviously clerics, but I mostly did play clerics, but I played fighters before, and I don't remember ever getting any of these swords. So it would be a nice little addition for a player to have, but man, it would be a pain in the ass for a DM. I tell you, giving these out sometimes is not a good idea. I've seen them in action, take out big bads, and make the DM cringe. I've don't think I can't remember because I know I've given these out in my campaign, but I don't remember if the players actually used them or not, or the campaign was over at that point. Because I would give out items like this only out to people that were, in a campaign for a long term, and it was the end. So I have had things like Holy Avengers in my campaign. I've had a character that had a Holy Avenger when I was playing a Paladin, but generally at that point is when the campaigns would just end because most DMs don't go past mid-level, in my opinion. I don't think I've ever been in a campaign that ran past maybe 5th or 6th level. We just finished even my Palladium Fantasy campaign where everybody was 5th level and then everybody wanted a break. So it takes a long time to level up in these older games, and people just sometimes don't have the I don't know if I don't want to call it attention span, or they don't have the will to continue a campaign long term and just play the one game that takes a long. They want to. A lot of people these days want a game that gives you instant satisfaction when it comes to leveling up and getting more powerful. There are some players that don't mind it, like me. I don't mind it. I just play to have fun, role play, and act out my character, get into a little bit of battles, try to talk my way out of it. But I have some players in my group that just want to level up, level up, level up. And no matter what game I play, they just want to level up, and get more powerful and try to be more powerful than the rest of the group. So, things to think about when you're DMing a game. Anyway, I'm going to head out. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode looking back at a very classic weapon or two here. I think the Vorpal Weapon is probably the most classic weapon out there in the D&D game that most people are familiar with that play D&D. They just, the Vorpal Weapon, I got to have that. So, Sword of Sharpness is up there, but I don't remember like hemming and hawing over it like that. Vorpal would be like, ooh. So, anyway, I'm going to head out, keep it original, keep it old school, and hope you have a great Monday. Good night, folks.